Hey, crazy friends. You guys remember that show that we used to watch, The Magic School Bus, that cartoon?
Magic School Bus.
That was such a great show. I don't know if I loved it because I was kind of a science geek and it was all about science, or I think the bigger thing was the fact that this teacher, no matter what they were talking about, could take her class anywhere. If they're talking about outer space, she could go to outer space. If they're talking about the inner ear, she could go inside the inner ear. And that was just always a possibility. That was what was so magic about it. Well, one thing that we figured out is we don't have a magic school bus, but we kind of have a magic RV, and we'll tell you about it today.
We're so glad that you're back with us today, and our family has been homeschooling for almost 12 years now. So we have a daughter who has graduated from high school, and she is also graduated from college and is getting married very soon. And we have another daughter who is in college right now, and so we have homeschooled them almost all the way through until graduation and on into college. But I will tell you, we're not the only ones homeschooled these days, because most of you out there, though you may have never been called to homeschooling or wanted to homeschool or even thought about homeschooling or just thought that people at homeschool were pretty strange, now we're all in the same boat together, and we're all trying to figure out how to make school come alive, to be engaging, and for learning to be a lifelong process for our kids. That has been our goal as homeschoolers, is that we wouldn't just keep it in the books and in the home, but that we would let the world be our classroom. And no more has that been real for us than in the past few months. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to launch out, was for spending time as family and to grow our faith and to have some crazy fun. But truly, as a homeschool family, we saw this entire United States and all the people we would meet and all the places we would go and the nature we would observe would just be a seed bed for a harvest of learning and experiences where kids could get hands-on learning, no matter what stage, because we have all stages, no matter what age, because we have all ages. We can all experience the beauty of being road schooled.
That was a big transition for us. We knew that going from homeschooling, which we'd done for forever, to road schooling was going to be a challenge. Finding the time to schedule that in there, staying on task with all the adventures that we want to do. And we're still working through some of that. We're still trying to figure out those schedules and how that looks. But one of the things that we kind of knew would happen, but in our second week of being out full-time, it really came alive, was turning that magic school bus concept into the magic RV concept. Homeschooling, we've had that opportunity to allow kids to study the things they wanted to and to get more hands-on and more in-depth on certain things. But we've discovered that with road schooling, we can take that even to another level, letting them get literally into places that they could only read about in a book or only see on a YouTube video that we would use a lot in homeschooling. Now with road schooling, we're there. And that happened, like I said, that very first week being out when we stopped at the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. It was an amazing opportunity, seeing some of the things that we got to see and the kids getting hands-on. You know, I'll say that about this museum. It is not a go and look at stuff museum, even though there's a lot of stuff to look at. It is a lot of hands-on. I mean, the kids were able to get so in there in flying rockets and touching things and exhibits and talking to people. I mean, it was just over and above. And so we want to take you there and let you see a little bit of what we experienced.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
There's no laughing in space.
Space and Rocket Center is it's not just one big building. It's multiple buildings and multiple outdoor areas that are all broken up into many different exhibits. And so they even had, at this point, when we were there, they had a special exhibit on light that the kids were able to go through and play with. They had a indoor exhibit on the shuttle launch and the International Space Station. And then they had an outdoor, I'll call it a boneyard, where they just had these full-size helicopters and missiles and space shuttles, airplanes, different things that all have to do with the space and rocket program. Though all of the exhibits were amazing, the highlight by far was the Saturn V rocket. They have one of the buildings, and it's really just a one long single room, and it literally has the entire Saturn V rocket, like 39-story tall rocket inside the building. And this is the rocket that sent the Apollo 11 mission, the men to the moon. And so, yeah, it was just unreal. They have it hanging from the ceiling, and then all around it they have the history that built up to the launching of that. And they have demonstrations of the different science aspects and technology pieces that they had to do. And really, the kids were amazed by a lot of it, but I think we as adults were even blown away just by the magnitude of it. You know, I think the space race, especially that rocket, is such a symbol of what America can do and what they did. You know, to me, really putting a man on the moon was kind of the last time that America as a whole kind of came together, focused on one goal. You know, we'd come through the wars, and we were locked in this Cold War where there was really not a lot of identity unto anything, and there all of a sudden there becomes this competition between the two major sides of the Cold War, between us and the Soviet Union, on who's going to get this man to the moon first. And John F. Kennedy came out and said, within the decade, I want to see us put a man on the moon. And it took 8 years of hard work. But with that unbelievable deadline, they were able to do that. And it's just unreal, because they weren't just pulling pieces together kind of like we're doing now. They were having to invent new and unheard of technology, things that we're still getting benefits from today, like cruise control in your car. Those things came from having to develop things from scratch to be able to do this unthinkable task of sending a man from Earth to the moon. I mean, it was crazy. It was unbelievable.
But I will tell you, one of the neatest for me and as a homeschool mom was we were standing around just kind of observing and reading and kind of in our own family world. And so we were just going through exhibit to exhibit. But then I happened to look over, and there was a man in a white lab coat, and I kind of just walked around, and I looked at his name tag, and he was an emeritus scientist. And so I looked at him, and I just said, can you tell me about your badge? Can you tell me about yourself? And from that point on, we got the most amazing opportunity to speak to one of the actual men that was a part of this entire journey. He
probably talked to us for 45 minutes.
It was amazing. And our kids got to meet him, and he would share the personal aspect, not just what we read in the books, not just what we see on TV, though we've seen something powerful just in the past couple of days. We've been able to experience this come full circle. But at that time, we just were able to see it on TV or read about it in history books. But when we got to talk to someone who was there, who was a part of this race, and he said, we didn't know what we were doing. He said it was the hardest thing. There was so much pressure on us to do something amazing, and we didn't know day to day what it was that we were supposed to be doing. And just to hear the passion that he had. But one of the things he also said was exactly what Jay had just mentioned, is that he said, but the camaraderie, the unity, and boy, at a time such as this, I just go back to that opportunity to talk to him and to see the country together unified. And he talked about how powerful that was, that though putting someone on the moon was amazing and what a goal, but he said the journey to that was what was life-changing.
But he just kept saying, but we knew America was behind us.
It
we knew America was behind us.
Awesome. I mean, you just wanted to just salute and just sing and just to applaud. Getting to talk to someone who was on the ground in the middle of it. And he just began to pour out his wisdom, his encouragement. He talked to the children. He involved them. He asked them questions. And history just burst off the pages. And into our lives, and we'll never be the same. We'll never look at space adventure, space accomplishments, and just a few days ago, another manned space launch. We'll never look at it again the same. Well, you can see that we have traded out our dog for our daughter. And so this is Sky, and Brownie was with us a few minutes ago, but now we have Sky here. And so we thought on the next couple of videos that we would just allow our kids to come in one at a time. So last time we had everybody together, and everybody just got to share a little bit, but I think if we get one per time that really wants to be here and really connected with what we were doing, it was exciting. We just asked them, which one wants to be about the Space and Rocket Center? And Sky said, me, I want to do it. And so we wanted to bring her in and get a kid's perspective, because it isn't just Jay and I going on these adventures. Our kids are a part of it. And I know that many of you may have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews and want to know what's kid friendly. Is this really something that kids can experience and enjoy, and it makes a difference from their perspective? So we brought Sky in. And Sky, how old are you?
I'm 9 years old.
She's 9 years old. And what do you think about RV living so far?
I love it.
You love it, you do. Well, what about the Space and Rocket Center? What did you think about that?
It was so cool. I love it. I just love seeing the rocket that got shot into outer space, and I got to see it in real life. It was super cool.
What were some of the things? I know you kids got to do a lot of things, like you got to sit down and do a lot of things. Do you remember any of those? Were there any that you thought were super cool?
There was like a game, and you got to sit down and try to like launch this rocket out of space and like drive it.
And how'd you do?
It's really hard.
Did you explode?
Yes.
we all
None of us
exploded.
landed the rocket. None of us landed the shuttle safely. So if you're ever in need of a shuttle pilot,
It's not
don't
us.
come to
Yeah,
us.
we're not going to be going. We're not going on SpaceX anytime soon. Already know. Well, what did you think about getting to see, after seeing that and getting to see one gets launched into to space recently?
The one that we watched
What
on
did
the
you
phone.
think about that? How was that?
It was really cool because first we learned all about us seeing the rocket and how it gets launched into space, and then actually seeing it is really cool.
Was it? What did you think about meeting the man who just had experienced and helped build that rocket?
That was awesome.
Was it? What did he say that you thought was really good? Was there anything that you thought was really neat about him?
I just loved everything.
You just loved everything. And then you said, you really liked getting inside. So did you get to like see what the International Space Station is like on the inside?
Yeah. So there was this little
Capsule.
capsule, and you got to like go in it and see it. It was really fun.
Yeah. And what's something after they come back that really stuck out to you? What was something like when they come back from space, what did you get to see that you told me earlier today you really thought was kind of neat?
So after they get out, they have to be locked up in a bus to make sure they're not sick.
So they're in quarantine. Sound familiar to anybody? So they get quarantined in a bus. They thought that was really funny.
It was pretty crazy. It was an old RV that
Yeah.
they converted into this mobile quarantine thing for them, and so it was pretty neat because they had it there, and it had been restored, and you were able to walk kind of through it into part of it, and so
So it was kind of
pretty neat.
applicable
Yeah.
because not long after we left the Space and Rocket Center, we were in RV and we were sheltered in place. So we kind of got a preview of what they might have felt like, for sure.
One of the things about being out and in a road school environment like that, if you will, is that we also run across things where we wouldn't have necessarily maybe pushed our kids as hard as this would, or challenged them as much, or exposed them to something. And we saw that really firsthand with Ruthie, one of our twins. We talked a little about it in the last video about their special needs and how they're just cognitively and physically not at the level of a normal 11-year-old. And so we just never know exactly what they can and can't do. Most of the time we do. Most of the time we have a pretty good idea of where they're at and what their abilities are. But we were surprised this time. As part of one of the exhibits, they had a rock climbing wall. And of course, Sky wanted to do it, didn't you? And you climb, how many walls? You climbed to the top of how many?
on two.
Two
walls,
all the way to the
all the
top
way to
of
the top.
2 walls. Well, when Sky was out there, Rosie and Ruthie decided that they wanted to try because sister was doing it. And Rosie got on and got off the ground like, maybe one hold high, somebody right behind her helping her. And we figured that would kind of be the what happened with Ruthie as well. And actually, Ruthie just took off. She went, honestly, she probably would have gone all the way to the top had we let her, but we wanted to keep her where we could still help her not bounce against the wall if she fell down. But she went up. I mean, the little lady that was helping her was on her tiptoes holding the rope up. She went up as high as she possibly could, way higher than we would have thought. And that's been one of the beautiful things that we saw. I've seen many times, but that was just one of those specific things at the Space and Rocket Center where we realized that what we're doing as a family is exposing them and giving them opportunities that we never would have given them and might not ever have even allowed them to do because we didn't think they were there. And yet they're thriving in that and pressing forward in that and blowing through those boundaries that we thought we had. And so it's just been a really, really great thing. So overall, the Space and Rocket Center was a wonderful family-friendly endeavor that we had. It took us, I mean, honestly, the whole day. We ate lunch there. We took our time. We probably could have spent more time if we had stopped and read more. But they had there's just lots of different types, videos to watch, things to read. And so we ended up spending the whole day there. There's an RV site there. And so we actually stayed on site and just walked right over a path right to it. It was really, really, really neat. And so overall, Sky, what do you think? Would you give it, from a kid's perspective, would you give it a thumbs up, a thumbs middle, or a thumbs down?
2 thumbs up.
Oh, it got the
thumbs up.
2
Nice.
9-year-old 2 thumbs up.
That's pretty big when
Brownie
you get the
gives
2.
it 2 paws up for sure. He didn't get to go, but
No,
he
he
got
didn't
to
get to
listen to all the kids that were in the RV park who go with their schools and go on field trips. They get to make their own rockets and shoot them off. So we got to see all the cool rockets. So they have space camp there. So if your kids are interested in that, you can get involved in space camp. They had a list of all of the astronauts who had been to space camp there, and it was really cool to see how many that their space adventure really began to blossom at the Space and Rocket Center. So it really is an amazing place. If you have the opportunity to go there, it's inside. It's got so many accessibilities. Our twins did great there. And even in our own families, we got to experience some history come alive from different wars and different things that were flown and different projects that were worked on. And so it's a surprising and wonderful place for adults and also for kids. So we really highly recommend that on your crazy adventure for sure.
Well, until next week, we hope that you'll go out and find a little bit of crazy of your own. See you next time.
Bye.
So don't forget to like this video and then subscribe so that you make sure that you don't miss anything. That actually helps us out a lot when you do those 2 things. And then also, if you missed our last video, just get some context on this one. You can click right down there and get it as well. And don't forget to follow all of our social media outlets. You can go to our website, which is www.findyourcrazy.org, and check out everything there. See you next time.